he brought the most famous of American and European singers and concert musicians. To Milwaukee's Alhambra Theater came all the great entertainers of the American stage. At the Palm Garden, the joy of good living. Gemütlichkeit, American style.
You know, sometimes I can't understand August. There are excellent properties for sale right in downtown Milwaukee. Well, why does he tie up good money in those fields of daisies out in the country?
I told you why. Does he really believe that Milwaukee will grow to 200,000 or 300,000 and Chicago will grow to millions?
Wait 10 years. Or 20.
August Eline was a man with faith in the future of a growing America, and he had courage to face an unhappy present. In 1893, a year of deep depression.
What is it? The Second Ward Bank. There's a run-on. The people are afraid they'll lose their money. If the bank should fail...
Fear does terrible things to people. Henry, please ask Martin to bring my buggy around.
You think he can get there in time?
This horse harvester holds the world's record for the mile. He'll get there in time.
Would you excuse me, please? Good morning, Henry. Here's the Fitz deposit for today. Well, I see you're doing a brisk business.
Hey, that's August Eline.
I know. How about that, Stell?
Well, I guess if the bank's good enough for him, it's good enough for us.
Mother was a wonderful person, wasn't she, Father?
She was a fine woman, Paula.
You must miss her very much.
Yes. But I have you and the boys, Ida, Tekla, and their fine families.
That's a good one of Irwin. Was that taken at Cornell when he was studying law?
No, I think that was taken at Copenhagen when he was studying brewing over there.
Is there anything Irwin hasn't studied?
The old ways aren't good enough anymore, Paula. Real education is the only preparation for big responsibilities. Education in brewing, yes. But education in law, chemistry, business administration, all of it. This is the 20th century, Paula.
I know. But I'll tell you a secret. He'd much prefer to take his place here with you.
And I'll tell you a secret. That's exactly what he's going to do. Just as soon as he and you and I return from Europe.
Oh, Father.
Hello, boys.
Hello, Father.
Hello, fellas.
Well, Robert, what do we have here?
Joe, what is all this?
You'll find out.
Wine bottles?
Colored wine bottle.
Really, Irwin?
We have all known that light affects the taste of beer. And we've been thinking that if colored glass will protect wine from light, why can't it protect beer? It'll mean longer life, better flavor, a lot of advantages.
But it would also mean scrapping all of our present bottles.
It's a great idea. And well worth it. Congratulations. By all means, go ahead with it.
Very
Thank
good,
you,
sir.
Father.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be glad to work with you, Robert. I do have a knowledge of chemistry, and for the summer I'm free.
Oh, no, my dear brother. That's what you think.
In 1911, August returned to Europe to visit well-remembered and well-beloved places. Perhaps at this moment, he knew that he would never return to America. And within a week, he would be reunited with his beloved Emily. Yet, in a larger sense, there was no change in leadership. The Uihlein family carried on in the same proud tradition of devotion to constantly ascending standards of quality. Bottles of brown glass had proved best in protecting the delicate flavor of beer. Here was Schlitz pioneering, which would lead the industry, but not without a fight. With Schlitz standing alone, battling the issue in the public press and in taverns across the country.
All this uproar is a lot of nonsense. Brown bottles, clear bottles, who cares? You say there'll be a difference just on account of the light, but you work for Schlitz.
All right, you be the judge. You or any of these gentlemen.
Well, all right, time's up. Let's open them up.
Yeah, let's have no doubt about this. Come on, Herman. What's the verdict?
Well, what do you know? And I thought this was just a lot of advertising talk. Well, I'm sold. And let me tell you, this can mean a big thing for Schlitz.
It is already.
Make mine Schlitz in the brown bottle.
Make mine Schlitz in the brown bottle. Sales rose, and with the passing years, competitors, one after another, were forced to follow. But ahead lay disaster against which there was no defense. Prohibition, which was to bring in an era of crime and corruption, achieved overnight what no competition had been able to do in nearly 3/4 of a century. But even at a time when most of the sprawling buildings were silent and empty, one office was alight day after day and far into the night. Prohibition still gripped the industry, yet here the leaders of Schlitz were considering plans to rebuild almost literally from the ground up.
I have every faith the American people will demand the return of beer. And when that time comes, Schlitz must be ready.
Faith we can afford, that's free. But what you're proposing is in terms of millions of dollars, many millions. Would you have Schlitz go into debt to finance this gamble on faith?
Many years ago, August Uihlein amused some of his friends by investing in fields of daisies. They were bought on faith and judgment, which time has proved very, very wise. So much so that if we agree Irwin's plan is sound, we can pay our way. You might say, with daisies. So the only question is, do we agree?
Father would have.
Yes, he would. And I say, let's go. All the way.
Then we agree?
Agree.
The decision was made to gamble on faith in the American people. New buildings would be erected and equipped, designed by Schlitz's own people to Schlitz ideals, putting the company many years ahead of the industry. And it was a venture undertaken none too soon. Thus began a new era at Schlitz. These were busy years, years of building, expanding facilities to keep pace with demand which mounted by millions of barrels. Then came World War II, and soon Schlitz faced another challenging problem. With every fourth case consigned for our armed forces overseas, and a further large part of production earmarked for the armed forces in this country, inevitably, there were shortages on the civilian front.
Well, as we know, some of our competitors, by using certain substitutes,
instead of premium grains, are able to satisfy their markets, while Schlitz...
Stop right there.
I'm sure it's not your intention to suggest that we resort to substitutes. It wouldn't be honorable. And it wouldn't be Schlitz. You can't make Schlitz with substitutes.
And when Schlitz laid the plain facts before the ultimate customers, you and me and all of us, we understood. Sure, we groused a little, but we had to respect their integrity. The result, when Milwaukee turned out to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the company, Schlitz was first choice in all the world, and still growing, still setting ever higher standards for the entire industry. Through the years that followed, Schlitz facilities were expanded across the country. In New York to serve the East Coast and export around the world. In Los Angeles to serve the West Coast. In Kansas City to serve the heartland of America. In Tampa to serve the great Southeast.
Very handsome, Bob, but what, Uncle Owen? I'm not sure exactly. I have the feeling it makes us appear very vast and rather impersonal. And that isn't true. This is probably the most personal business there is.
That's very true, Uncle Irwin, but how are you going to capture that spirit in a printed brochure?
I don't suppose it's possible. But out in the plant, you can feel it. You can see it in the attitudes of our people, each day in some way, trying to better yesterday's best. You can hear it in the little remarks and comments by visitors.
Well, I've heard of places so clean you could eat off the floor, but here you really could.
Water's got to be sparkling clear and match up exactly with every other Schlitz brewery. How fussy can you be?
6 million bushels of barley. Why, that's the total production of 250,000 acres. Just so they can age it longer and let it mellow. Imagine that.
I have seen the most famous breweries in Europe, but nowhere such loving care of the hops. Personally selected, perfect blossoms.
You never saw such refrigeration equipment. They tell me they could supply half the city of Milwaukee.
1,000 barrels of beer in every one of those glass-lined tanks, just lying there aging. Schlitz always has enough aged beer on hand to pour better than 6 glasses for every grown-up in America.
Imagine searching through hundreds, maybe thousands of yeast cells for the one most perfect to develop into a family big enough for a whole batch of beer.
Now, there's a job after my own heart. But I don't know. They say it takes a lifetime of experience.